I am a member of the Gila River Indian Community, and I am Akimel O'Odham and Dinè, and I grew up in Blackwater, which is near Coolidge, so over by the Casa Grande ruins, so people know that more. Let's see. Our department provides surveys. We do surveys, we do excavations, we have our own in-house analysis for several different material types, including ceramics. We have a staff of about 50 people, and about half of those are tribal enrolled community members and other native tribes, and the other half are non-natives. First, I want to start off with the 4 southern tribes because we're related to all of them. We basically live on the same land that our ancestors lived, called the Hohokam, along the Salt Rivers and Gila River in Arizona. Our family includes the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, the Akimel Indian Community, and the O'Odham, as well as the O'Odham in the northern region of what is now Mexico. We have collective traditions that have been passed down from generation to generation, and our way of life, we say, is our himduk. In the past 30 years of archaeological research in the Phoenix Basin, the focus has been on the prehistoric time period with no consideration of the documented archaeology for the O'Odham. This distribution map demonstrates the richness of archaeology on the reservation, and this just, the red dots are all sites. So you can see how dense it is on our reservation. Some archaeologists have claimed for years that the Hohokam disappeared or left the region in 1450 AD. And there is no evidence to show a continuum from our prehistoric ancestors to us. But of course, we are here, we claim ancestry to the Hohokam. So the narrative is changing, and it's a good thing. It's a lot different from when I started in 1994. So a lot of these are, what we did is we looked at some habitation sites on the Gila River, but I'll show you the next one. We've documented distinct attributes of the indigenous O'Odham wear types. This type of analysis has not been fully researched previously, and what has been done, am I missing it? Okay. And what has been done is useful, but due to a limited sample size at the time, we didn't have a full picture of the O'Odham ceramics. So I'll just talk about what we learned from these ceramics, from these habitation sites on the GRIC. The diagnostic attributes that we see and that we teach our analysts to look for is they are folded rims, stucco coating application. The forms are usually bulbous jars. There's black on red ceramics too. We look for organic temper, where the core of the ceramic is basically black and spongy due to the use of like manure. So that's diagnostic. We look for fine sand temper, so it appears that the temper changed over time, like the recipes changed over time to what we have now from the prehistoric. It looks like historically it's documented that potters would sift the sand before they mixed it with the clay, so they had really fine temper. They would use screens, like window screens, to do that. They are high-fired more than prehistoric ceramics, but we continue the red on buff tradition in addition to red on brown. Another thing that we look for is simple geometric line work. The prehistoric ceramics are bulky. They have a different color of iron paint or hematite paint or ochre. We see the use of ochre in some of these sites, and I'll show you in a little bit. But now there has been an increasing understanding and collaboration between archaeologists and native groups like the GRIC that leads the profession as a whole forward. Recently, several archaeologists have asked for help identifying these, hold on. Okay, so these are photos from Frank Russell's The Pima Indians that was published originally in 1908. So he's showing how the women are gathering clay, digging for clay. And then the other image is of pottery production. Someone is making her pottery. Where is it? Here. Here. So in the upper left-hand corner is has the woman making coils out of the clay. She uses paddle and anvil technique, and that's the same technique as our ancestors made ceramics, we believe. So she's forming up the walls of the vessel, and you see the finished product. I hope you can see it. The finished product is right here. So you'll see more of what the forms look like that I'm talking about. And we don't use, like, the standard kiln either. We use, we might dig a shallow hole in the ground and fire the vessels with mesquite wood or whatever we had. And I don't know, this looks like she's getting ready to fire or she's fired, I don't know. These are some of the common O'Odham designs that other authors published in some of their books. So there aren't very many references available for the historic period for the O'Odham. So these are useful because you can see the continuous design styles. Like you have here, like there, on these. So these are 3 different authors who have documented these designs from 1908 and 1962. And then J. Scott Wood wrote a ceramic typology book in 1987 looking at the same design styles, and that's what we see in our historic ceramics. But you see there's the designs are more simplistic than prehistoric, and the vessel shapes are different too. They're unique. So there is a picture of a scroll, which is pretty common throughout the historic period, that probably originated from the prehistoric pottery designs. These are just some of the sherds that we got from one of the sites that I'll be talking about. We collaborated with several archaeologists over buffwares and trying to understand the difference between buffwares from here to like over toward Gila Bend. But these are all ceramics that we got from the one site called Sakati. And you can see that's not everything, but there's a lot of artifacts. So the sites I'll be talking about are actually from Blackwater. Blackwater here. And then Hohokam, which is the next District 2 over. And then Sakati is actually in District 5, so kind of going this way. Examples that I want to give you are from the work we did at the Blackwater multipurpose building prior to any construction. Of course, our office evaluates the land and we mitigate any adverse effects to any ancestors or cultural items. So there's the plan view for the current multi-purpose building, and this is the site that was excavated, and some of these are historic keys, well, houses, basically. So here are some of the artifact assemblages. And Blackwater, this location in Blackwater, we think it could have been in use in 1870. We kind of cross-reference it with modern historic ceramics to get a better idea of the dates. But here is what this whole vessel right here came from, this key, and it was full of ochre. So naturally we think that it could have been used in pottery production for paint. But I mean, it could be used in several different ways, but that's kind of what we see ochre or hematite in association with pottery production tools. So this is a key, I should say it correctly. It's like kind of like a brush house. And so this plan view would have been something like this when it was in use. Hohokam, we think is was used around 1870. We found some architecture there, the walls, the square walls, and then some bowls and plainware jars, and those were all in the floor of the quay, which kind of anchors them in the use of that house. So that's how we can kind of determine how old these artifacts are. It lends to what we're seeing. These artifacts in the houses were predominantly locally made. That's one thing that we do at the lab. We analyze sand. There's petrofaces that we use that Beth Mixa designed way back. So these floor assemblages suggest these houses were all built around roughly 1870. So the archaeologists in the past would say that there's a proto-historic period, meaning the time between prehistoric and historic. That, like I said, there's no evidence for. But that narrative is changing the more that we are publishing. I think it's important to get out and say these things, because if you look at young students at the universities, they're using all the old references. Everyone cites Russell, everyone cites Fontana. So hopefully what we do at Cultural Resources with the density of these sites, we learned so much more. What we want to do is just let people know that we're here and what our artifacts look like. This is a black on red bowl. Most people associate black on reds with Maricopa, but our tribe also created this pottery. At Hashankuuk, we found these vessels that were in a cache, and they have, notice these bulbous forms. You'll see that a lot. And then the design is kind of going in this, it's banded. Here's another historic jar. It's a similar shape to the vessel that is in the picture from 1900. Yeah, circa 1900. So you can kind of see the continuity with these vessel forms. Sakati is a historic village that is in District 5. But it's an extensive site, as you can see from the map here. So all of these are historic houses. Well, they were called historic houses by the surveyors, our surveyors. So you can see the habitation density at this particular site. And of course, this is what it looks like today. At Sakati, we found all the sherds that I'll be talking about, including polishing stones and anvils. These are mainly used in pottery production, so those are the tools that we use. And then there were a lot of stucco planewares and buffwares, and I know that stucco is probably attributed to the Patayan, but it shows up here too, so that's why we're aware of it when we see it. And from such a big site that we claim is O'Odham, it's very informative to archaeologists, I think. So we have a type collection that we use to train analysts, and we use when other archaeologists are interested in seeing the difference between the prehistoric and the historic sherds. So the red on buff has very faint lines on it. It's like the paint is fugitive. It rubs off easily. It seems like the paint doesn't adhere as well as the prehistoric sherds. And then again, you have more of the black on reds that we see a lot of. And then here is an image of some of the red wares with organic temper. You can kind of see it in that one, but it's all black. So that's another indicator that we're dealing with historic ceramics. They just look different. I mean, when you're analyzing every day for years, you kind of notice the difference between prehistoric and historic. So we have the historic red on browns too. And you can see the line work is just kind of more simplistic geometric. But I'll show you more. Okay, so some of these designs, when we compared it to the historic documents, we can see similarities here between this curved design and what was documented by Russell. And these sherds were found at Sakati. And you can see some of the continuous, well, that's not a good example, but you can see the similarities in the design styles. Like I said before, the forms are generally more bulbous, and the line work is in a band around the circumference of the vessel. So you have these usually you'll have designs within that band, and they don't usually paint below the base or on the base. Some of the jar forms are different, like I said. And again, you can see in Bernard Fontana, he did some work on the Akimel O'Odham, or people know them as Papago, documented a lot of these, the culture. It's just amazing, the work that he did. And you see similarities with the Akimel O'Odham vessels and designs, probably because we're related. And here you see like a whole a large vessel production area here, and look at all the bulbous jars that she's making. This is probably a kitchen here. That's how we used to have kitchens, brush kitchens. So yes, with the forms, they're bulbous. You can see several examples. There's also a bean pot form right here, and they kind of introduced these little lugs in the historic period, and you can see the forms are just very similar. Over time, you just see that, and you know what it is. Those are some of the profiles of some of the vessels that we've seen. And again, that was cross-referenced with the literature on the O'Odham and Akimel O'Odham. So here's a historic O'Odham red on buff. So you can see here with the one on the left what I was talking about with the bands. So you have two like borders and then the design within the band, and it goes around the circumference of the vessel. The line work is usually, there's a lot of space between the lines, and like I said, the paint can be fugitive or rub off easily, probably because of the recipe that they used. It might have been different. The rim styles that we see are really different. We see folded rims a lot, and you can see here, it looks like when they're producing the pottery, they're actually folding it and leaving it like that. Like sometimes there's a coil underneath that. So just there's some strange things happening with these forms. And then here again, you've got the line work that's kind of more simplistic, more curvilinear, just geometric designs. But you can just see the similarities to the historic literature too. Like I said, some of the bowls are also have some of the design elements as well. So we document just the information about the design of what we can see. A lot of times the black paint on black on reds is faint, very faint. And again, that could be because of the recipe that was used to produce this paint. So we document what the forms look like in order to compare it to historic documents. Here again is an O'Odham black on red. I think these are in Smithsonian, Frank Russell's photos. But the paint is organic too. I think later on in the historic period, people were using mesquite bark and sap. So they put it into a pot of boiling water and then kind of boil that down, and that's the paint. You end up with black paint, and I'll show you some in a little bit. But a lot of it is faint too, so that's another key to seeing that it's historic. And we didn't have black on reds prehistorically either, so that's something different. We have red on browns. Prehistorically, they're usually from the Tucson area, but we have what we're calling O'Odham red on brown. So these are from some of the site, like Blackwater, I think. But again, you see those simple geometric lines, and it's probably within a band. So we also find stucco coated wares. As you can see here, we've seen in the ceramics different mixtures of clay. So they'll make the vessel with whatever clay they want to use, but then they'll have another mixture that they put on the vessel, and it's like stucco. It's just like what it's called. But they do that with plain wares and buff wares primarily. We don't see that on red wares, but sometimes when we're analyzing, some of the stucco comes off in patches. And so we see evidence of people reapplying the stucco. And it might be even a different temper. They use different temper sometimes when they're applying something to fix the patch, make the patch. But it's kind of obvious on the sherds. So some people think it was maybe for use in cooking, like perhaps the stucco coating was made it easier to grasp jars when you're cooking, or maybe it was insulating the food and keeping it hot. We don't know. Like I said, we worked with several archaeologists to discuss buff wares from around the Gila Bend area and Gila River. So it was a collaboration. We were trying to get archaeologists to see the difference between the sherds and what we see. On Gila River, it's basically a big site. We've got a lot of land that's been untouched, but due to development, we have to go out and mitigate any adverse effects, like I said. So and that's how we find the historic houses, the key. So it's a unique area to work in for archaeology. And we probably have about 3 million sherds, I think, now from all the various projects over the years since we started in 1994. So we see so much. What we see on the reservation is a house built upon a house built upon a house. You know, you see that a lot in the prehistoric period too. But with the historic, well, this is a colonial period house here, which is prehistoric. You can see this is what we normally see underneath, just below the ground surface when we're trying to clear these areas for homes. So this is one of the areas that we were working on so that they could build a house. So you can see it's not very deep in the ground. So these are prehistoric pit houses. And then, like I said, we went to the style change, so we started using the keys. And then from there, we started going into the sandwich houses. And they call them sandwich houses because they have like lumber, like 2x4s with the clay in between. And it just kind of, they sandwich it together, and you can kind of see that here. People usually laugh when I tell them what that is. But that's what people lived in for, I don't know, 20 years maybe. And that's the kind of house that I grew up in. So it's very important to me to document this history for us because of the richness of all the sites and the connection that we have to our ancestors. So again, like I said, we're collaborating with archaeologists, and we have our own archaeologists within the tribe too that are community members. We're collaborating together to understand a little bit better, because our office is in Saskatoon, and it's right in the middle of the reservation. So when you drive through there, you'll see these different styles of houses and how they changed over time. But basically, that's the transition. So these houses could have been on top of here, on top of a prehistoric house, and you just see how we continue to use the land that our ancestors used. We continue to eat the same foods that our ancestors ate. The prehistoric diet is very similar to what what I grew up eating. So a lot of community members claim ancestry or claim that the Hohokam are our ancestors, and that's just what we believe. But in the literature, every single time, some archaeologists still say, we don't know where the Hohokam went, we don't know what happened, or, anyway, we just say, we're still here. And if you work on the reservation for many years, you'll understand how dense the occupation is on the Gila River. So I wanted to show you some of the tools that we use in pottery production. Okay, so this is a modern paddle that one of our crew members made. He was experimenting with it, kind of basing it off of what we saw in Russell's book. This one's a pretty big one. I mean, it could have been used for large vessels. But when you're making ceramics, you kind of get a feel for a good paddle. You choose your own paddle. And we did a lot of experimenting with some of the clays near Snaketown, and made pottery from that. But here is, so that's what we use, and then they'll use an anvil inside the vessel to flatten all the coils. And then this is tree sap, mesquite tree sap. So this is mixed with the bark of the mesquite tree when it's blackened, and you add liquid water, and it comes out like this. So this is the kind of paint that was used historically, we think, because we look at all the documented, the ethnographers that documented our culture in the early 1900s, and it's consistent with the way that we are doing things now. So it's good to see. But yeah, we've got when I say we experimented, I taught people how to find clay in the natural landscape, and I taught them how to process it and make everything from scratch. So we had to spend many hours processing clay. But you also, when you make any kind of vessel, you want to add some temper, and this is like just fine sand temper that we got from someone's house that lives on the reservation. So that's what's added to the clay to build up the body, make it, to strengthen it, and it just holds it together when it's fired. Some people say that if you fire a clay vessel that doesn't have temper, it's going to explode. We haven't tried that yet, but it's we have used like shallow pit firing. We've also used trench firing, and we have a kiln at work that we use to experiment with these ceramic clays. So we're still working on it, but we have a lot of sites that contribute to what is already known. It's more like legitimizing the research that was done in the early 1900s. When I'm reading some of the literature, even with basket making, they'll talk about how you went and gathered everything and the process of cleaning and scraping. And so in my family, well, in everybody's family on the Gila River, they made baskets and they sold them for trade when the tribe had to shift to a wage economy. So you'll see baskets all over the world from here, in many museums too. This, I think, is just our attempt at continuing these traditions. We have some people, Katrina Soak, she contributed to this presentation, and she just makes beautiful vessels. She's really good. She's a natural. And I think that's kind of what it takes to make a vessel that's large, and the clays act differently. So usually you want to find a source and then you'll keep going to that source. So, at least that's what's written in the documents, and also talking to modern day potters. They have their sources. As well as ochre, there are places where you can get ochre on the reservation. You have all the tools that you need on the reservation to make pottery. So, like I said, that tradition is continuing, and by teaching some of the younger people about the process, it'll help them understand how hard it was to make these types of things just to live, because like planewares were probably utilitarian. They needed those vessels to survive, to hold water, to hold food, to cook. So you had to be pretty good at making them. And like I said, Katrina's a natural, and that's what it takes. I mean, I'm trying. I can make vessels, but they're kind of small. But yeah, we can see how hard it is to work with clays, and how hard it is to find good clays. And there are people out there who have their sources, and we could talk to them, but it was more interesting to go out and find it on our own, so that hopefully they can teach new analysts as they come in to the department, because I've been there for 30 years, and I would like to retire, but so that's another reason why I'm trying to teach this tradition to people, so that they can do it on their own. And some of the people actually fired the vessels that they made behind their house, so it's easy to do. I mean, I don't know why everybody doesn't do it, but also, this project was part of, is in this book collaborative archaeology. So if you're interested, you can get it online. It's through Amaranth Studies in Anthropology. So it's got a lot of good photos of some of our people that work with us, making baskets, making pottery. So this hopefully will be more available to researchers, young researchers, and they can see the difference between what O'Odham believe and what other people want to believe. So anyway, so it's available if you want a copy. So here. So I just want to thank you guys for coming and supporting Gila River's Cultural Resource Management Program. We have a lot to offer to the archaeology on our own land, and it's good to let people know about what we're doing, because we don't want people misidentifying ceramics either. So this kind of research helps them. So that's where the collaboration comes in between community archaeologists and outside archaeologists. So we're teaching them and they're learning from us. So, all right, well, thank you for being here, and that's my presentation.